Can we put carbon back into the ground, and can it really be sucked straight out of the air with huge fans? The answer is actually yes, and Iceland is at the forefront of this new technology, opening the biggest direct air capture facility in the world designed to do just that. If you feel like the world has been full of doom and gloom recently, then you've come to the right place. On this channel, we bring the best positive news stories directly to you every week. From a new mosquito net that has saved 13 million lives to a new living wage aimed to lift millions of Indians out of poverty. I'm Regis, and join me for 7 of the best good news stories from all around the world. First up, we have exciting news in sustainable technology, where clean drinking water is one step away from being available to millions more people. Nearly 1 in 10 people on the planet don't have access to clean drinking water, while 1.6 billion people face water shortages. People without clean water are at a dangerous risk of illnesses like diarrhea, which are caused by poor sanitation and cause millions of deaths a year. And that's what makes the prospect of this next system so promising. A team working out of King's College London has made a breakthrough in water desalination. Desalination is when harmful mineral salts are removed, making seawater safe to drink and helping remote communities in developing countries become more self-sufficient. Because more than half of the groundwater around the world is full of these minerals, there's an enormous untapped resource sitting right under the surface. Converting water underneath the ground into fresh water isn't a new kind of technology. However, the main difference with this new system is that it runs entirely on an efficient solar power system, meaning the communities will have to rely less on fossil fuels or expensive batteries. The energy unit matches the pump rate with the amount of solar power available, cutting the price of battery fuel and water as a whole. After running a series of tests on a small village in India, the King's College team reported that their solar-powered system can produce 13,000 liters of water every day. That number is enough for over 90 people to live off of, since the average person uses around 142 liters each day. The new system could also be applied to irrigation for the agricultural industry, potentially bringing down the cost of food as well. There are even more cutting-edge innovations happening in the medical industry, where a new vaccine could combine several into one single shot. After years of lockdowns, masks, and travel blocks, most of the world began to ease restrictions in 2022. However, the emergence of variants and subvariants led to more infection spikes. As the disease mutated and adapted, it also became more resilient. Now, this is true of all viruses, which is why tracking and preventing variants is a vital part of medical research. Now, work done by a group of scientists at UC Riverside seems to have achieved the impossible, creating a vaccine that works against any strain of a virus. So how does it work? It's an RNA vaccine, which stands for ribonucleic acid, which are molecules in our body's cells responsible for protein synthesis, where proteins combine with amino acids to make our enzymes, hormones, and muscles function. The new type of vaccine helps certain RNAs multiply, in particular the ones that target viruses in the body. It still uses a live version of the virus, but it doesn't require the body's immune system to react like normal vaccines do. The point of this is to create viruses that can replicate but can't interfere with our RNA, making it effectively ineffective. This makes it extremely broad, meaning it has the potential to be a universal vaccine against a range of viruses. The recently published research found that this method caused mice to withstand deadly doses of viruses for 90 days. Importantly, because this vaccine doesn't trigger an immune response, it's safe to use on babies too. Researchers are looking ahead to make it applicable to flu vaccines, and if they're successful, there will be fewer vaccines needed, more people protected, and it can even be delivered in spray form. That's good news for everyone afraid of needles. I don't know anyone like that. Meanwhile, one fearless kid from Oklahoma has gone above and beyond, becoming a hero after he saved his parents' life. Would you trust a 9-year-old boy with your life? When Wayne and Lindy Baker had their car totaled from the vicious winds of a tornado in Oklahoma, their son Branson was their only hope of making it out alive. The doors had formed a crumpled wreck, and both parents were badly hurt, leaving them trapped inside. Amazingly though, their 9-year-old son Brandon had survived, and after pleading with them not to give up, he told his parents to sit tight while he got help. Now, this seemed like an audacious task for a kid, especially with severe winds and a lightning storm blurring the way. But Brandon was determined and ran more than 1.5 kilometers, miraculously finding his way back to their home in just 10 minutes, where he alerted neighbors to the tragedy.
I just want to say my mom and dad, that Jesus, he was with me.
Thanks to him, paramedics were able to rescue both of his parents and take them to the hospital, where they were treated for their severe injuries. They're still in recovery today, but both have their brave son to thank for their survival. How do you say no to a kid who saved your life? The local Oklahoma community quickly rallied to support the family, setting up a fundraiser for health costs and displaying their names on the helmets of Brandon's baseball team. And it's nice to see the power of a community actually coming together for a good cause. Our next story comes from Africa, where a new kind of mosquito net has saved 13 million lives. Malaria is the cause of over 600,000 deaths each year, with most of these concentrated in Africa. Often, the most effective way of preventing the contraction of malaria is painfully simple: installing nets. However, even as nets have been distributed throughout the continent, new problems have arisen. Nets in especially dangerous areas are usually treated with insecticide to make them more effective. However, one type of mosquito, the Anopheles mosquito, has adapted, growing to become incredibly resilient to these chemicals. And that's where the Interceptor G2 came in. Developed by BASF, the biggest chemical producer in the world, the Interceptor G2 is treated with chlorphenapyr, a chemical marketed as a new generation of insecticide. While it's safe to use for humans, it has proven to be significantly more effective than any other chemical in the world against mosquitoes. Over a period of 13 years, a number of initiatives distributed a total of 56 million Interceptor G2 nets, and the results have been majorly successful. They've prevented an estimated 13 million malaria cases and saved healthcare systems across 17 countries at least $28.9 million each year. That money is sure to be put to good use, as the recent election in Senegal has sparked hope for a new era of democracy. Senegal was a former French colony, home to over just 17 million people today, and recently has been facing economic issues of low productivity and slow development, fanning the flames of instability. In this year's presidential election, which was held on March 24th, independent candidate Bassirou Diomaye Faye won with 54% of the vote, beating his opponent Amadou Ba, who attracted just 35%. However, that win didn't come easy. Bassirou Diomaye Faye had been the target of political attacks for months leading up to the election. He originally represented the PASTEF party before it was banned by the government earlier this year. Then Faye himself was thrown in jail. Both of these attacks were by an outgoing former president clinging to power. Other tactics used to disrupt the election included delaying the election itself and the president threatening to run for a third term, despite that being against the law. It's time to give someone else a turn, am I right? But thankfully, despite all of that, international observers reported a fair election this year, and Senegal is finally emerging from a crisis toward a better future. The new president Faye has promised to stamp out corruption and reduce poverty while improving food distribution and economic opportunities. Another country looking to finally address issues of inequality is India, where the minimum wage could be getting a major boost in 2025. Despite being home to 200 billionaires, more than 1 in 10 people live on less than $2.20 a day, and tackling poverty is a priority for this government. The Indian government has consulted with the International Labour Organization and is now planning to roll out a new living wage next year. A living wage means an amount of money that's enough to provide a decent standard of living. It's part of India's aim to meet the UN's Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, which include reduced inequalities and decent work opportunities. The biggest problem here will be addressing the informal sector, where 90% of workers are employed and where labor standards and wages are difficult to regulate. If you've ever been to India, then you know just how hard those street merchants work. However, by aiming for a living wage rather than simply focusing on the minimum wage, the International Labour Organization believes that India has the right approach to make an actual impact on poverty. Our final good news story today takes us to Iceland, as the biggest carbon removal factory on the planet just turned its lights on. Taking carbon directly out of the air kind of sounds like science fiction, to be honest, but it's slowly becoming one of the most effective ways to fight climate change. Known as direct capture, fans are used to push air into a filter, which dissolves carbon into the water and then stores it underground, forming a kind of stone. This particular project, named Mammoth, has been developed by the Swiss company Climeworks, which has attracted investment from big tech companies like Microsoft and Stripe. Their first plant, built in Iceland and named Orca, already sucks around 4,000 tons of CO2 out of the air each year, which is about 250 times the carbon footprint of an average person in a year. As the first large-scale plant of its kind in the world, with 8 containers, Orca was a monumental achievement when it was completed in 2021. However, it pales in comparison to Climeworks' brand new facility, which has 12 containers but will scale up to 72 by the end of the year. On average, Mammoth will be capturing 36,000 tons of CO2 per year, 9 times more than their first plant. Apart from helping to fight climate change, Iceland is hoping to be an early mover in a new carbon removal industry that's picking up steam. Well, that's all we've got for you today, so which story was your favorite? And if any other good news stories caught your eye recently, let us know in the comments below, and maybe we'll cover them in future videos. Thanks again for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.